Clean with me while I vent about how my landlord has me fucked up. Right after signing the lease, we did a walkthrough. On the way to the property, I asked the property manager if it was okay if I installed some devices and a fence, things like that, to keep my son safe because he's special need and a very high elopement risk. And she goes, "Oh, I'm not sure. I have to ask the director. I know we typically don't allow anything because it damages the property, but I'll definitely ask the director and get back to you." And I said, okay, cool. So she does. She emails me later that day and says that the director says that I'm only allowed to use adhesive devices. So I took it upon myself to send her a picture of what I was considering purchasing on Amazon to keep my son safe, hoping that they'll make an exception. I don't fucking know. Anyways, they come back and say, absolutely not. You're not allowed to install this. You're only allowed to use adhesive devices. So because this is a brand new experience and I don't want to rock the boat, I say, okay. I go on Amazon and I purchase some adhesive chain locks and I put one on every door. The very first night we slept over, I woke up to a policeman banging on the banister saying, "Hello, miss, your son got out and almost got hit by a car." Girl, I immediately shot the fuck up, got dressed, and went downstairs to go get my baby. Once I take my son from the firefighter, the policeman pulls me aside. He's like, "I have to ask you some questions." I'm like, okay, cool. So he goes on to tell me that the current setup is really unsafe and that I need to make some changes. And I said, I've already tried, but the landlord told me no. And he said, okay, well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to report this to DCYF because of what occurred, and you'll be hearing from them soon. And I damn sure did. They showed up the very fucking next day. The person that showed up to do the investigation was super kind. He said, "I could tell you just moved in, so I definitely believe your story, but unfortunately, because of what happened, I have to do a thorough investigation." And so I go on to tell him the same thing I told the police officer, that I literally tried to get permission to do this, that, and the third, and I was told no. And he said, "Do you have proof?" I said, "I damn sure do." I sent him screenshots of every fucking email that was between me and the property manager. He said, okay, cool. He said, "Do you mind if I reach out?" I would love for you to help any way you can because ultimately I just want to keep my son safe. And so he does. The very next day, property manager calls me and she says, "Hi, Kalia. I'm so sorry about what happened to your son. I'm going to send you a reasonable accommodation form so we can figure out how we can keep your son safe." I said, "Oh, okay, cool. Thank you." I filled it out the same motherfucking day and sent it back via email, okay? I noticed that a few days go by and no one's responded to my email. They didn't even acknowledge that they received it. So literally a month later, mind you, actually, no, this was 2 months later, I had an incident with one of the maintenance workers. And so I sent them an email, but I decided to include everything that I've been experiencing since I moved here, from the neighbors to the maintenance and overall just issues with the fucking house, okay? So she responds, "Well, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were going through all of this. I don't want you to have an unpleasant experience here. And I'm going to forward this to the director and she's going to figure out how she wants to proceed." She then responds to say the director would like to speak with me about what I shared in the email. So I said, okay, cool. I said, "I would like to schedule a phone call." She was like, "Oh, that's a bit impersonal. She would like to speak with you in person." And so she goes on to say, "Oh, she could come to your house or you could come to our office." So I said, "You know what, fuck it, let me go to their office because you damn sure not coming into my house." I sit down and off bat, I'm getting vibes like this bitch is a fucking... I can't explain it, but she's just... I wasn't feeling her fucking vibe. She then goes on to tell me how she's a bulldog and she runs this shit and she's been running this property for over 10 years and that she knows what she's doing very fucking well. She then goes on to give me a bunch of excuses for literally every complaint I made in that fucking email. So then I circle back and I'm like, well, I submitted an accommodation for my son and I hadn't heard anything back. No one responded to my email, acknowledged it, sent me an approval or denial letter, nothing. And then she says, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm the one that handles all the accommodation requests. I must have forgotten to respond to you." Can you believe that shit? Anyway, stay tuned for part 2.